This is KLEAN Radio.
Welcome, everybody out there listening to KLEAN Radio. And I don't know how many times if I hear that preview, I still smile every single time. And Andrew Spanswick is not in. He's up somewhere in the cloud. But in studio tonight, helping me out, of course, is the great Buddy Totten.
How's it going?
It's going well, and I'd like to welcome everybody out there listening to KLEAN Radio. You could find us on Facebook.com/KLEAN Radio, or you could go to KLEANRadio.com or on Twitter at KLEAN Radio. And if you go to KLEANRadio.com, you can read my blog this week, which is about finding balance, and that's our hashtag tonight. Our hashtag tonight will be finding balance. When you first get sober, you really have no balance. I had no balance. The most important thing for me was to go to as many meetings as I could whenever I could. Then stuff starts to happen, that thing called life and relationship, jobs. And you find yourself through sobriety having to really learn how to find balance and it's a really hard thing because so many people have families out there when they're getting sober. They have wives, they have kids, and you start seeing your loved one get healthy. You want to spend more time with them, but that person also needs to continue to go to meetings. So it's this balance. And I remember when I first got sober, on my first Passover, my mother said to me, she goes, if you need to go to a meeting, I understand. If it's just too much, I understand. And it was a little bit too much. So I went to a meeting. And a couple of years later, she said the same thing to me. And I remember I was finally able to say, I don't need to go to a meeting. I'm okay with my family. And it was such a special moment in my life, but that took a while. And I would love to hear from people out there, how do you find your balance? It's National Recovery Month. So I decided, Buddy, that we're going to call National Recovery Month Sober People's New Year's.
Awesome.
And so that's our resolution. What are 3 of your resolutions out there if you're sober for this National Recovery Month? And that's what I'm talking about in my article too. Even I have to find balance. I think about the gym, joining the gym. I don't think about the first day of the gym or membership. I think about the 30th day.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
I want to go to, I think about going back to therapy. I think about how he's going to help me in 5 years. I don't think about the present. And so that's what I really want to talk about tonight. I want to know, how do you find balance and in sobriety? And if you're not in balance, give us a call. Let's get some suggestions. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. We have an amazing show tonight. It's one of my favorite. I'm going to say this right now, Buddy. He's not even one of my favorite actors anymore. He's just, that's not that his acting went down, but since he's been on the show already and now he's on the show again, he's one of my favorite people because I look at him and we talk before the show and it sounds like finding balance is John Savage's also goal.
I so appreciate that. Buddy and I have been talking a little bit, and I'm 65 now. And I'm very healthy, thank God. And I can't remember your name.
Judah.
Now we're getting a little more balanced here.
Yeah.
Right. I was so amazed and just listening to your personal, just talking right now. And, that spirit that is, it's hard really to convey. It's a spirit that comes from your heart. And you want to describe, what did I do? I had to do this. And I did this. And I did this. And at the time, it's a tightrope walk. It's really today I still have the roller coaster rides.
So let's get a little
emotion.
Let's get a little bit into that.
I do have other people though. I look at them and I go, they're not. I can hear their head rattle.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand. So that conveying that spirit as a group of people here. Every single one of us in this room is different. Some of us are very different, but we won't get into that. This is a spirit that is shared by other people. And you guys putting it on the air is saving somebody's life right now. They're saying, this sounds like a lot of this. It's too complicated. How am I ever going to I can't. I want to. I can't. Getting that tennis match out of your head. To go to a place where people can stand together and sit down together and look at each other and like, how are you tonight? Oh, really? And they will listen. They understand. They know what you're talking about. They've been there, done that. And that's starting something. I heard a guy at this cancer event the other night saying, and it just broke me up, he's got cancer. He's had cancer. He's been recovering 2-3 times. And he says, well, I run the Ironman. I start this part, and then I start the other part, and I start this, and now because I'm successful, so in this recovery again, I'll make it clear to you, I've learned to start. I'm not thinking about finishing the race.
Right.
I want to start. Just starting now. Just that beginning of a new thing. Oh.
And I think that's an amazing metaphor, what you're talking about, for so many people out there that are struggling with addiction, with alcoholism, with mental health. Just start. Worry about the finish later, but just start.
It's like we're just sharing. I've grown inside. I have things that I've learned more about, through recovery, about myself. Maybe there's some mental health areas I can, say, whether it's depression or anxiety, things that have affected my behavior over the years, from a young man to today. And without getting into an anxiety attack, maybe listening to some suggestions where I might hear, from a child, there might be room for me to let go of my opinion, which I can really enjoy. I mean, I love talking.
And just so you know, a good friend of mine one time said, if you're not dual diagnosed, you've been misdiagnosed. And if you just tuned in, you are listening to KLEAN Radio. Give us a call tonight. Our hashtag is Finding Balance. So give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. We're in studio tonight with John Savage, who's been in some of the most iconic movies of all time, whether it be Hair, The Deer Hunter, Salvador. Just, I mean, movies that almost define the word iconic. But what was it like? You're coming up on 16 years sober?
It'll be about 18.
Oh, sorry.
November 2nd.
What was it like 18 years ago?
18 years, 10 months, 12 months.
So what was it like almost 19 years ago?
3-4 weeks, 3.5 weeks. Never mind. What was it like?
Yeah. What did it look like
ago?
the day before you got sober? Because now you look great.
The day before I chose to make a phone call was after years and years of doing it my way. I brought people to recovery. I admired others who did it in other countries. I saw amazing achievements, and now I'm seeing a lot in my own country. Men and women who got off 30 years living on the street and now have master's degrees in mental health and other areas, and they were diagnosed with some major disorder, including addiction of drugs and alcohol. They were gone. They were, as far as anybody looking at them would just walk over them and leave them. And this is where believe me, it's not easy when a young person may be having difficulties and their personality is difficult and their behavior is not the way you want it, and it's hard for them too. And how do you help someone when there's a bipolar alcoholic drug addict, which may be the reason they're taking the drugs, or that may be what causes the behavior?
Sure, absolutely.
Well, you don't know until you start somewhere to deal with other people's experience, strength, and hope. And I think the very idea of a program where others have that is so important sometimes, because where people have been through it, and you're even being around people that you may see have difficulties, that you can see that they are not ready to accept this, and they are fighting it, and they're getting worse by doing it. You might be difficult because you don't want to be around crazy people. You don't want to be around people that are throwing up and having fits because the cocaine burned their brain cells. You don't, God, who wants to be around them? But I'll take another hit. I'll do what I can do. If that's for me, it's my agent. I'll be right there. But just the idea of being around people it's not like us and them. It's us.
Right. That's the important
We're
thing.
not just dealing with the doctor or the psychiatrist or whatever. And even there, that stuff may come later. You'll actually be better at it by dealing with people who know certain specifics in recovery after you get more sober. You will find answers yourself through recovery. And it's amazing how, You know, you do something for other people by doing your own recovery. You're giving them hope. The people in recovery.
Right.
A lot of people won't understand why you're there. They don't get it. What do you want to do that for?
And that's one of the reasons you're here tonight, is to spread the message. So what?
Well, also, just to thank you guys, because this is what I want to encourage.
Yeah.
What you gentlemen here are doing, and the people that you've invited. This is a source going out on the airwaves, like other areas of our radio and television, that have areas for encouragement that are just plain overlooked and denied. They're not as important as real, important, serious news. Well, there's a lot of serious news that we don't have anything to do with. It's terrible. Oh, God. How can we fix the world? But in our own house, in our home, there may be someone we can't help, and it's killing us. It's killing them, or a friend we love, or a child, or a mother. And there are people who can. We can do it by finding, even if you're not an addict, finding programs for people who aren't addicts, who love them. And you would be surprised. NAMI just had the biggest convention in Washington, D.C., pushing for mental health and addiction to be on parity with health, period. Health and mental health. I consider addiction to be maybe a health problem.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe a mental health problem.
Sure.
Well, let's put them on the same table.
Absolutely.
Let's treat them equally. I've recovered from polio as a child. Why? Because a bunch of people really put all their energy into a program for recovering from polio.
You're listening to Clean Radio. If you just tuned in, that's John Savage. Give us a call. The number's 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. We're talking about finding balance, but, one of the things you're talking about, John, is a lot of us come in here with different peccadillos, when we're getting sober, whether it's mental health issues and not just alcohol. We come in here with the whole kit and caboodle. And it really takes a long time sometimes for people to really find that balance,
which you're helping so much.
So, but my question to you is, so you're almost 19 years sober. You just shot an amazing movie. You were in Serbia, almost 18 years sober. So you were in Serbia. That's got to be really rough sometimes, just picking yourself up. You shoot a lot of movies.
Well, they have meetings there.
Okay.
And people may not speak English perfectly, but it's amazing how many people speak English. You know why? Because of Radio Free Europe, they were listening to our rock and roll. But, they have just so much energy, and there's a lot of drinking.
Yeah,
right.
And a lot of smoking.
Yeah.
There's like this thing I noticed. Cigarettes are cheap, and it's pretty much they can afford a lot of people cigarettes, so it's the thing to do. I saw that in China too a lot, and alcohol. They need certain industries that they have there to be able to develop them for Serbia. They need to really do some things that are, they have the most beautiful nature there, earth, the best dirt for wine growing, for grapes. And there's this sort of something stifling their ability to invest or find investment for their own personal development. So there's a tricky place there that I will encourage the business to grow for wine, and I love to smell wine. I can tell good wine and bad wine by its aroma.
That's a great party trick.
Oh, totally.
Invite John Savage to the party.
And I'll tell you what's good and what's bad. But the idea that there's program for recovery there too.
I think that's amazing. Yeah. But so before you leave, before you go on a movie set, or even vacation, you call up first.
I call usually, or I'll find it. And there's, you find people that they're just there.
But I think what you're sharing is an amazing thing, and I think it's important to talk about because so many people. These are people's. we're talking about, thinking about stuff before you even start them. So many people, right? But before they stop drinking or their first day of sobriety, they're wondering when they're going to get married, how they're going to get married. They wonder about all these different things. And you're basically saying, you're taking away all these different things by saying, when I go to a movie set in a different country, I call and find out where their meetings. I'm able to live, I'm able to work, and I'm able to be part of society sober.
Well, it settles my brain down a little bit because, traveling can be real. But once I like flying. I love to fly. It's just the 2 weeks before I get on a plane, I go nuts. But the idea of having a focus to where I'm going specifically. Meetings for me, I could be I've been in countries where they don't speak my language and they still extend themselves in.
It's an amazing thing.
The way of sobriety. I mean, I've had, stayed in little houses where you get put up for a night and they'll serve you a little breakfast. And at night you come back and they want to give you a glass of wine or something. And they're not hotels. There's like in Sicily, I stayed in a little place. It was like just a little house. And I said, no, thank you. And why don't you don't want to drink? You don't want this,
Right.
Oh, and then they talk a little bit, and somebody will come up to me and say, do you not drink? And I'll say, yeah, that's okay. I don't really mind if you do. No, that's okay. We take you. We know. And they'll find Luxembourg and Sicily. Nobody wants to know about the AA people. But they see somebody like you that they can identify with, their lives are surviving. Their survival was based on their getting sober.
That's an amazing story.
And they will share that with anybody else that they can tell. That's what they know. I know something they know.
Right.
I'm still alive for some reason because I took a different direction.
You're listening to KLEAN Radio. That's John Savage. Give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. Our hashtag tonight is Finding Balance. But let's get to Arnold calling from Portland, Oregon. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Arnold.
Hello, how are you guys?
Good. How are you, Arnold?
Good.
I just had a couple questions. I've never actually heard you guys. I take Suboxone.
Yes.
I have for probably 3 years, and at this point I have kind of mixed feelings about it. I talked to my doctor about, hey, I'm ready to get off this and move on, and I feel like he doesn't seem as eager as I do, but it just seems even harder to get off this stuff than anything I might have been doing 4 or 5 years ago.
What was your original? What you were heroin? You were taking heroin?
It was just pills, oxycontins and oxycodones. I never did heroin. It was kind of a line in the sand.
Can I interrupt you? I got something really cool to tell you. Can you believe they've got a new form of Oxycontin that is almost 3 times as powerful?
Yeah, so hydro.
So I'm just saying, is that weird? Why do we need Oxycontin that's 3 times stronger?
Yeah.
It's like heroin.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So Arnold, so you want to get off the Suboxone, and I know it's really hard. That's essentially what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
We talk a lot on the show about, becoming let us be your advocate, but it's also important to become your own advocate. And you're basically standing up for yourself and saying to your doctor, I don't want to be on this anymore. The problem is too, you're on something that's extremely addicting.
Yeah.
So here's my thing. Are you ready to, are you ready to get help?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I'm going to tell you what, we're going to try to do the best we can. Whether it's our outpatient facilities or our inpatient facilities. I don't know what your schedule's like. I don't know what your life's like right now. But I don't want you to have to do this by yourself. And if you can't come to us, we'll figure out a place for you to go.
But he's in the best place for someone like us right now. He's confused.
Yeah.
God bless you.
And he's asking.
You have the most powerful thing going for us in the world.
See, the
grace of confusion.
I think he's past confusion. I think he's to the point where he wants to get off.
Well, that's part of it, because a lot of times he's looking at his own sense of decision and questioning I can't be living with this confusion. I need help.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, the little thing we might suggest now and then about spiritual contact and other stuff, let it go. Give it to God. Take direction from those people that know and respect. So listen to this guy right now. Don't do anything your doctor says no right now, because the change in balance can be too quick. And it's like anything. You might need some help about some of the bumps you got to go through anyway. You know, that's what we have to do in recovery. Even after sobriety for a while, you're going to have bumps. It's a roller coaster ride.
It is one big roller coaster.
Suboxone's tough.
And Arnold, the courage that it takes to call in and to talk about this, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, is absolutely amazing.
It's so I'm getting teary.
Yeah,
but
it's amazing.
I've actually called 2 other times. I just hung up. I was like, no.
Right.
I'm not calling the radio.
That was you. I've seen your name on the screen before, and then I never got to talk to you.
Albert.
And I was always wanted to take your call, but I couldn't get.
It's
Arnold,
that first.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to hear. It's that first. Somebody picks up the phone for maybe the first time again.
Yeah.
But it's taking that first step.
I think it's John Savage's voice, because anytime
I do too.
I think it's John Savage, and.
I don't know about that.
You know what? You'd be surprised. So Arnold, I'm going to have you stay on. If we could help you, will you take that help?
Oh, in a second.
Awesome,
Okay.
Arnold. You
so
can
that's
do
what,
it, man.
So that's what we're going to do. And Arnold, I want you to answer the phone when we call you back. That's
Okay, deal.
and there's no pressure. We're not. We've all been in this boat. Whether it's been Suboxone, for me it was alcohol. For Buddy, it was.
Everything.
Buddy, it was everything. For John, it was
smorgasbord.
Everything.
For John, it was everything, and we get it, Arnold. I mean, you're not alone.
Just keep breathing, dude.
You know, for the courage that you had to call so many people out there tonight.
Yeah.
That it's not that they don't have the courage; they're still stuck. So many people are going to be getting help by Arnold. The fact that you called.
Yeah, I'm really glad you called, Arnold, and I can tell you for a fact that you can get off Suboxone if you want to. It is possible. If I can get clean, anybody, and you as well, certainly can get clean. You know, it's just Suboxone's a tough one, and you're going to probably just need some medical assistance, and we'll do our best to help provide that for you.
Sound good, Arnold? Can you stay on hold?
You bet. I appreciate you guys so much.
We
Arnold,
appreciate you, man. Love you,
I
man.
appreciate you more than you, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I think John.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's really true. This is what it's about.
Yeah.
You know, hearing your reach, and there's a sense of life and spirit going on in your voice that's true.
So hold
That's
on, Arnold.
it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. And that was Arnold calling from Portland, Oregon, and he's going to get help. And I, from the bottom of my heart, believe that. And if you just tuned in, you are listening to KLEAN Radio. We're in studio tonight with the amazing John Savage. Buddy Totten's here, and after the break, we have a really great guest. I love when we have causes in the studio, because causes are really important.
Absolutely.
And we have somebody by the name of Robert Stohr. He's the division director of the Suicide Prevention Center. And he actually saved lives. And if anybody's out there listening, Arnolds of the world, everybody, no matter what you're going through, there's a chance. There's a chance if you're alive. So we'll be right back at KLEAN Radio.
It's better than watching the news, I'll tell you that.
Are you addicted to drugs or alcohol, but unable to commit to an inpatient rehab stay? Introducing KLEAN Treatment Center's Outpatient Treatment. This drug and alcohol treatment program is designed specifically for the working professional. Don't let your commitments of running a business, taking care of a child, or maintaining your college classes get in the way of your recovery from addiction. With daytime, evening, or individualized programs, KLEAN's Outpatient Treatment will fit your life. Call now for a free screening. Professional guidance is standing by.
Welcome back to KLEAN Radio. We have a great show tonight with John Savage is in studio, and it takes a lot of people, and sometimes the show ends too soon, and I always want to thank people, because the show takes a lot of putting together. And Monique Moss from Integrated PR just left the studio, and if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have found my way to John Savage, so I really want to thank her. And like I said, we have another amazing guest in studio tonight. His name is Robert Stohr. He is from the Did Hirsch Foundation, and they have a a 5K run walk for suicide prevention coming up on September 28th. I will be there. I will not be running or walking. I will just be there. And
It's only 5K. Come on.
I'll
go.
I think I just got a challenge from John Savage.
I think you did. I think so.
Yeah.
I was okay. So welcome to Clean Radio, Robert Stohr.
Thanks, Jude. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. So really happy to come on, and I appreciate the opportunity to spread the word about what we do in the upcoming 5K, which is coming up on September 28th. It's actually, we're on the edge of National Suicide Prevention Week this week, coming up the 7th to the 13th. And Wednesday, September 10th, is World Suicide Prevention Day. So we appreciate the opportunity to really get the word out that suicide is preventable. There's hope, there's help. And some people get a little nervous about coming out to a 5K around suicide prevention, and we want to assure them there are a lot of people that come out for a specific cause, people who've lost people to suicide, people who've had problems with suicidal ideation. But there are also people out for a good time. There are people out there to raise money for a good cause. And this money goes to the Suicide Prevention Center right here in Los Angeles, which serves an area of about 21 million people.
And so we're going to be there. And you know what? I might run. And I might walk. But I'm going to do one or the other. And I think everybody out there should. Let's talk a little bit about suicide, because it's one of those things we don't like to talk about. And you know what I just noticed? Suicide Prevention Month is this month, and so is National Recovery Month. What, do they just lump us together?
Yeah.
We can't get our own months apart from each other.
There's not enough months in the year.
And it's one of my big issues. It's the NFL. When we've discussed this on the show, has Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's great. It's an easy, but to have why not have mental health awareness month in the NFL? I don't remember the last time an NFL player had breast cancer, but I do remember the last time an NFL player has had, severe mental health problems.
Absolutely. It's an important month for us. It's interesting. It hasn't gotten a lot of press in the past. Mental health issues, substance abuse, suicide are inextricably linked, and there's a huge stigma around them, and the fact that people don't want to talk about it. And so we're really getting the opportunity now to bring it out, and it's got to come out of the dark, and so that people can know that it is a preventable issue, and there is a lot of hope around it if we can, as John was mentioning earlier, decrease those barriers to care. And fully about a third of people that are in recovery are also dealing with a comorbid issue around mental health issues. And a lot of times people will get sober and wonder, why isn't this working? Why isn't this happening for me?
A lot that happens.
It just takes that little bit of time. And it's funny, we got that little thing on our shoulder. I have it. He's right here. He's doing push-ups all the time, not just for my addiction, but for traps of thinking that is like a spiral. It is, even while I'm talking, I have to be careful sometimes. Am I really in control right now? If I'm getting too far out of touch with my feet and where I am, sometimes I can get this buzz just from yapping away. And I get excitable, and I feel great, and then I drop. What am I doing? My God, why do I spent too much money? You ever notice that a lot of depressing things encourage us to spend more money?
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Like, why am I spending so? Why am I? Even with my kids, they're helping me. A lot of times they'll say, "Look, I have to get this." And it would cost me $400. Do you know a way I could maybe handle it? Well, yeah, go to the computer. I mean, the Chinese are giving away free textbooks, and you can also, there's another website you can get half price, stuff like that. Just to talk and have somebody listen to you, and not necessarily have an answer, but know that there's going to be somebody there to just understand you have this problem and it's yours, and it's going to be dealt with sooner than later. You will find that those things can happen almost instantaneously. Tears can put you on the floor with laughter because of the insanity that we have in our lives. It's just nuts.
You're listening to Clean Radio. That's John Savage. We're also in studio tonight with Robert K. Stohr, Division Director of Suicide Prevention Center. Really an amazing thing that you do. And like John was just talking about, when we're talking about suicide, I think people have, that are also struggling with stuff. You're scared if you talk about it, you're going to be put away.
Right, and that's one of the great myths that we want to get away from. That used to be the thinking, and that used to be the treatment. And now we run a suicide prevention center actually just down the street from here, where we take over 60,000 calls a year.
Oh my God!
And only about 5% of those will end up where we really help the person get to an area where they feel like they're in danger and they need the treatment. And most of the time we can do that voluntarily. But 95% of the time, if someone is feeling worried or stressed or concerned about their thoughts, they're in a stressful situation, that they're dealing with a crisis has come up and they don't know the way around and they have suicidal ideation, we assess the risk. We make a space just to listen, just as John was saying, just to make room for somebody to really put that out, whatever it is. And we train our volunteers. We have over 170 volunteers because of the volume of calls, just to be there for somebody and really listen to the reason they want to die. And know that it's okay to talk about it. It's interesting. I run a group for attempt survivors, people who've actually tried to take their lives. And oftentimes the first thing they do when they come to the group, we say, we're going to talk about the reason you wanted to die. And we're going to put that out there. And we assure them that in some cases there may be a necessity to break confidentiality, but most of the time there never is, because we know how to listen, we know how to help people, and we know the fact that the majority of them we can de-escalate on the phone, help them resolve, and connect them to treatment. And we also make the line available for people who are worried or concerned about people. So if you know somebody that is high risk, who has a mental health issue, has a comorbid issue around substance abuse, is in a major depression or demonstrating signs of high-risk behavior or withdrawal or social isolation or something that's different from what they characteristically do, and then they give you some information like, the interesting thing is 75% of the people who try to take their lives will tell us in one way or the other, and we don't recognize that because we don't want to listen to it. So what we try to tell people is, be conscious if somebody says, and this isn't a myth, that I want to die, or my life's not working, or I don't know where to go, or I'm stuck, or I'm trapped, or it's just not working anymore for me, or I'm giving up. Listen to that very carefully and then ask them. Ask them, are you thinking about dying? Are you thinking about taking your life? Do you have a plan? And that's a hard discussion for people to have. We spend 3 or 4 weeks trying to train our volunteers to do just that. But if people aren't afraid to talk about it, the reality is they can make it safe for somebody to call. And our number, if you want it, is 877-727-4747.
What was that number?
877-727-4747.
And we're actually going to post the link, and we have all that information. So
I want to just encourage that person who has those thoughts over and over and figures it'll always be okay. I'll get through it, even though it's killing me right now, and I'm not sure. Call.
I think the point is life shouldn't be, life is a struggle, but it shouldn't be like that.
Right.
It shouldn't be like every day, and we talk about this in AA or in the 12-step world too. Not every day. Maybe in the beginning it's really rough, but not every day should be, I want to die today. I want to drink today. And there is hope. There would be no hope. And I know organizations like you. I know we had Mariette Hartley on the show, who's who's got an amazing play about this, and she's happy. She's got a great life, and I want to talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about the hope.
Yeah, that's an important piece. Well, first of all, I want to kind of just put some people at ease. We say that 90% of people who die by suicide had a mental health issue. But I want you to know that 95% of the people in recovery or with mental health issues don't take their lives. Right. So it's not a common occurrence, and it's important to know that. And the thing to know about the hope is we know treatment is available. And what John said is really important. Now that NAMI is working on parity.
Tell people what NAMI is.
NAMI is the National Alliance of mental illness. And it's a nonprofit group that's really fighting, as John mentioned, for parity so people can get treatment. With treatment, there's tremendous amount of hope. The reason people don't seek treatment is all of the stigma associated either with mental health treatment, the stigma associated, unfortunately, with recovery or substance abuse issues. People are afraid or they're going to be judged, or the stigma around feeling suicidal. People don't want to be locked
meeting other
up.
people that may be depressed.
Right.
Who needs that?
Exactly right.
It can be really fun. I tell you, I've been there.
It's true, though. I mean, I've never actually I got to ask this. I mean, I've never been to a suicide a suicide. What's the group called? Like after.
And a suicide attempt survivors group.
A suicide. I'm sure the stories. I'm sure there's so much laughter in that room, and I know that sounds more. And the reason I'm able to say this because I know in 12-step meetings we laugh about the most morbid things that people that haven't been through it could look at us and go, "You crazy?"
Well, it is, and that's exactly it. It's a community, and it's a community where the stigma gets neutralized or erased because everybody's on the same page, and they haven't had the opportunity to be in a room where they can talk about it, and then they can understand. And it's a really interesting fact. We had a young college student, all-American kid on a basketball team, really was doing great, never thought it was not normal to want to die. Thought when I got depressed, and then he used a substance to accelerate the depression, and then he attempted to take his life. And so when he got in there, realized he had a mental health issue, and he started talking about it, he relaxed. And when people get into treatment and they understand, and the stigma starts to evaporate, they can laugh about it. They can laugh about a lot of things. They can really understand. And after time, just like in recovery, some of those desires, some of those thoughts go away. And there is a sense of, oh my God, this was a mental health issue. I'm not crazy. This was a mental health issue, and there's treatment available. And that's huge for people to know.
Build, in my little short time of experience with sobriety, I think you get tools.
Absolutely.
You get tools to say, oh, okay, here we go. All right, red flag. Before it gets too deep, I see what's going on with my brain or with my emotions. And, okay, thanks for the share, John, to myself. I have options. I can
well, that's exactly
just
right.
sigh. Just stop being a part of this in my head.
Right.
Just let myself be. And this, I find, is giving myself, and maybe I think I actually can see other people discovering more. They discover stuff they never thought of before. It's giving it over to something bigger than yourself. Phew, I need a rest. I can't handle it. I'm really feeling tired. I'm feeling unhappy. Okay. Talk to yourself.
Yeah,
Give yourself a little pat.
Yeah, when you start to let that information go, that thinking, and that's exactly what we do in the groups as well.
And find somebody.
Absolutely.
That phone call will hook you up to someone who will just be there for you. And it takes a little time to get to know lots of people. If you go to a meeting, it can be frightening. You don't like anybody. They're all like weird, But if you stick with that one contact that you can be your source, you start to really find like a routine, just a routine, and the routine can be it.
Absolutely.
Like brushing your teeth.
There's two big factors that I think are common in recovery and dealing with suicide. Suicide, when people feel they have a mental health issue or a substance abuse issue, they get a sense of isolation, sometimes based on the stigma and disconnection.
We get addicted to that.
Exactly.
I have a problem with
and
that.
when you come to recovery, or you
I want to be alone all the time.
Yeah, when you get together in a group, all of a sudden you're surrounded by people that you connect to. And when you start to connect people back, because a lot of us are introverted or want to take the time away, and that can lead to some profound depression or isolation. So that's part of the reason I think recovery is so successful. There's a lot of power in community.
You're completely right. And I also think what you're saying, I love that you're talking about this because it's one of the things we don't talk about always in recovery and with people in recovery, is that sometimes the steps don't solve everything. Sometimes you need to go seek therapy. Sometimes you do need to seek a psychiatrist because sometimes you just need to do that. And it's really important for people that are, the longer you stay sober, sometimes the more dangerous things could get. Because it's scary when you say, I have 15 years sober, I have 30 years sober, to say I need help.
Right.
because you always want to sound good for the newcomer.
Oh, yeah,
you always
of course.
want to sound good.
Right.
And I love what you're talking about. And this is a bunch of years back. Brad Delp, one of the best, one of the greatest American lead singers of all time, committed suicide, and from Boston, and he was sober. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I said to somebody, I get that.
Yep.
I get him committing suicide rather than drinking and having to deal with. And somebody looked at me like, "Do I have to worry about you?"
What if it's a mistake?
Yeah.
What if it's a mistake? It's that place of where our thinking becomes too easy to maybe make a choice that you will maybe want to. This is the way I really strongly feel right now, and I've been through this thinking before, but right now I'm going to do it. And then what?
Yeah.
God bless you, Give yourself a break at that moment. Just give yourself a break.
Well, exactly. And what you're talking about, Judah, is really, when you get to a place, I'm a psychotherapist. When I get to a place where I've got to deal with my own issues around depression, and you get an onset of that, and yet you're a therapist, and you think, well, I've got the tools.
Right.
I understand how this works. I know what depression is. But the reality is, it's like a doctor with a broken leg. I still got a broken leg. I still got to get treatment for it.
Exactly.
So when people get sober, if they don't know that they have a co-occurring issue and they don't address it, again, it can lead to a lot of fear and angst and a reality that they want to deny or go underground with, and that's a really dangerous spot to be because they may need the intervention around treatment.
And it's why at KLEAN we so believe in the dual diagnosis. And I love that my friend who's sober a long time, and when he said to me, if you're not dual diagnosed, then you've been misdiagnosed.
Right on.
And because I look up to this guy, and I was like, he's a real 12-step guy. And when he said it, I was like, you're cool. And I really like that. And the reason we're talking about this, I really want so many people out there to know, because these are things that are scary to talk about. Your son's in the room and he's been in the room for days. Oh, it's just a phase. He's just hiding out. And we like to brush things off. And then you brush something off, somebody could die.
Yeah, suicide is the second leading cause of death for teenagers.
What are some signs?
Wow.
So some of the signs we want to look out for, especially, there's a couple of things. We look first at risk factor. Who's at risk? If they have a substance abuse, mental health issue that they haven't worked on or aren't addressing, if they have a family history or a previous attempt, or a serious medical condition or have been in pain. Those are all really risk factors. The thing that we then look for, that in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing or dangerous. The thing we want to be concerned about, if somebody exhibits sign, and the most clear sign, as I mentioned earlier, somebody will actually talk about wanting to die. And oftentimes we say, oh, well, if they're talking about it, they're not going to do anything. They're just blowing off steam. That's not true.
That was a Seinfeld episode.
Yeah, exactly. The warning sign is if somebody's talking about, we call those invitations. Those are opportunities. 75% of the time, again, people are trying to tell us, I need help, but they're afraid to talk about it.
And they could be young. Young teenagers, preteens, just
absolutely.
12,
Is it
13.
getting younger and younger?
It's there's about a span of, I think, about 14 is probably one of the youngest, but it can be younger than that.
When do you start wanting to meet the opposite sex?
Yeah.
You pick the age.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. That's
trouble
everything is
starts.
over right at that point.
Exactly.
That'd be a great pamphlet from John Savage. What is the Did Hirsch Foundation?
Did Hirsch is a mental health organization that's been around since the late 40s, and it has 11 different divisions. The Suicide Prevention Center here in L.A. was adopted by Did Hirsch in '97 to kind of make it more soluble. It was actually began in 1958 by a couple of researchers out of UCLA. It's the first suicide prevention center in the United States, and it serves as kind of a model for centers around the world. We do a lot of training with the FBI.
What year?
1958.
I mean, that's incredible how late that is.
Yeah.
And it's not, 1958?
That's when it started. That's when,
That finally people said, this suicide thing might be a problem.
Well, and here was the thing. They were working with vets returning from the war, and they were also addressing in the coroner's office in L.A. suicide notes. And what they discovered was it was preventable, that people that were attempting to take their lives were ambivalent. They didn't really want to die. They were seeking escape from the pain. So when they started to do this research, the interesting thing is Marilyn Monroe died, and they were called upon to rule it as suicide. When they did that, their phone went from a couple calls a week to over 100 in a couple of days. And guess who picked up the lines? Their wives. So their wives became the first suicide prevention counselors in the United States because there was a need. They found out a lot of people were having these issues.
It's amazing how that works, and it's a big reason, we love to have professionals on this show and celebrities like John Savage. And because, it's sometimes the public needs to see people in the public. It's to get help and to realize it's a problem. And the thing that's tiring sometimes is what I love about your organization, or what I love about what you do, is you keep pushing. This isn't like a celebrity sadly committed suicide. Let's talk about it in the news for 2 weeks.
Right.
Let's say how bad it is. This is never ending.
Yeah,
And
I think one of the problems that that teenagers, maybe a significant point, is again it's back to that thing about starting something.
right.
Starting something. Where am I going? What's happening? I'm not in charge. I can't really figure it out. I'm not in control. Guess what? I have teenage attacks at 65 years old. I don't know what to do. I have no idea.
You know what John's talking about, what Robert, what you're talking about, life is terrifying.
Right.
To people out there that are listening, you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio, life is terrifying. Life is confusing. It's scary sometimes to say out loud, I have a problem. But there are people out there. There are people out there like Robert. There are people out there like John. You help tons of people that could call you on the phone and say, John, I need to go to a meeting.
And it's like, look at this room right now. Would any of us have a get-together for any reason except this?
Probably not.
Would any of us? I go to the meetings. I meet all the guys I might meet in a bar, but I never see them again.
It's a great point of what you're saying. It's they say in the 12-step world, we're not a glum lot. We're talking about suicide tonight. We're talking about sobriety tonight, and we're having fun talking about it.
Yeah.
And
my heart is breaking in a little way.
But you know what?
It goes both ways at the same time. I love it. I call it the grace of confusion.
Yeah.
If I'm confused, I'm closer to God in my mind. I have emotions going in both directions at the same time. Got to blow it out. I just got to take it easy. Yeah.
Robert, why do you do this?
I lost a good friend about 3 years ago, and I've been a psychotherapist for over 20 years. So when I lost that friend, and of course it was trauma and a shock, and I wasn't prepared at all to deal with that death. This was the closest person in my life. And what I recognized when I went to Did Hirsch Mental Health Services and the Suicide Prevention Center runs group for people who've lost people to suicide. So it took me about 3 months to get there. I got there. I went through the group because it's trauma and grief. It's a significant process to go through. That's what threw me into a depression. Now, I'm a mental health professional, but I spent about about a year of weeks trying to get off the couch after that. And so when I understood what it was, and it was preventable, and then I knew something was wrong.
Especially because you're in the industry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mental health professionals aren't trained to address suicide because of the stigma. We're trained to cover our butts and make sure our clients aren't going to kill their lives because of liability issues and risk factors. We want to make sure when we ask the question, they don't say, yes, I'm feeling suicidal. So what I know now as a professional and the director of the Suicide Prevention Center is it is preventable, and you have to address it and talk about it. You have to be able to listen. You have to be able to ask the questions, and you have to know what the warning signs are. You have to know when someone who's had a previous attempt, what this guy did, and they reach a crisis, and they're isolated and alone and suffering from a major depression, in this case bipolar and depression, and they reach this crisis, that's a recipe for disaster, because someone in that state is very likely to repeat the process and be successful, not successful, to complete the process, which this individual did.
And there's hope.
What you just described was so important. There's so many images for success. So many things we could do to either as a male or female or whichever, to find something that we're going to find out. We're going to show who we really are. We're going to get what we really want. We're going to do it. And then what? If we don't do it, what happens? We can lose all of our hope. If we get it, and then for some reason it's not really enough, then what? The idea of success, to find those things in ourselves that we can be grateful for and feel grateful and really get it. Sometimes we need help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this person didn't get treatment. Person was getting his pilot's license, successful corporate job, great home, very successful, but depressed.
There's no rhyme or reason. You can't.
No.
It's. You could be the greatest looking, the best built, the most money, and
You can't look inside.
Yeah.
You can't look inside and see what's going on in that head, that heart, those feelings. But if you can recognize it from the outside and get that person to get treatment, because they won't talk about it unless you talk about it. So you got to be, whether it's recovery
so maybe it's
or mental
this.
health.
This is maybe like I said in the beginning of the show, we have a resolution. So maybe this should be the resolution. And Pat O'Brien was recently in studio, and he said nothing makes him happier than when I text him once, every once in a while, just saying, "How are you, Pat?" That's Pat
true.
O'Brien.
Yeah.
That's Pat freaking O'Brien. Says he's happy to hear when Judah texts him.
Right.
So maybe that's our resolution. We find one person to text,
Absolutely.
and
That's
we
so
say,
cool.
"How are you?"
It's like the space
Yeah.
between two people
Yeah.
is more powerful than anything you could tell somebody that you're gonna you do this or give them trying to give them to fix them or anything else. No, it's just that contact and that space between two people.
So
That-
we're gonna have
that
Monique.
connection.
We're gonna have Monique Moss from Integrated PR work on. That's our goal for this week, is to figure out how to launch the "I'm gonna text one person" campaign and say, "How are you?
Absolutely.
Is everything okay?"
Connection.
And be okay with the response.
Yeah, right.
and,
It's so cool.
and be okay.
Listen, yeah.
Yeah. So that's this week's goal. And we're
Nice.
going to do that with Patrick Sean Kennedy over here. We're going to shoot some videos for that. The best video guy in the world. And we wouldn't be able to do the show without Patrick. He produces, he directs, and we are running out of time. The event, again, is...
It's September 28th that you can go to aliveandrunning.org, and it's a 5K walk or run for suicide prevention. Come on out.
And
You
we're
can
gonna
have some fun.
and we're gonna post some links. John, are you gonna be there?
I'll be there.
If John,
That's
John's-
awesome, John. That's
John
great.
Savage, Deer Hunter, Mr. Deer Hunter, and every other amazing, iconic movie that's almost ever been made.
I think I can do the 5K.
And
That's awesome.
Nice.
I'll tell you what, John, if you do the 5K, I'm going to do the 5K. And I'm going to text somebody hello as I'm texting them and say, "How are you?" Robert Stohr from the Did Hirsch Foundation, you're doing amazing work. John, you're doing amazing work. You're coming out with a new movie called Fort Bliss with Michelle Monaghan, Ron Livingston, and, of course, John freaking Savage. And Buddy Totten,
Yes.
as always, you are the man. Thank you to all our fans
you,
out
Judah.
there, to everybody out there. If you're going through it, just give us a call. The number's 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. No matter what you're going through out there, there's hope. Give us a call. That's 888-601-6040. And that's I Want to Get Better. The discussion continues. KLEANRadio.com.
Are you addicted to drugs or alcohol but unable to commit to an inpatient rehab stay? Introducing KLEAN Treatment Center's Outpatient Treatment. This drug and alcohol treatment program is designed specifically for the working professional. Don't let your commitments of running a business, taking care of a child, or maintaining your college classes get in the way of your recovery from addiction. With daytime, evening, or individualized programs, KLEAN's Outpatient Treatment will fit your life. Call now for a free screening. Professional guidance is standing by.